So, good morning, good day. We're learning here chapter 51 of Tanya. It's a it's a very difficult chapter because it seems as though the Alter Rebbe repeats himself over and over. And the Rebbe, when he wrote his notes on Tanya, he alludes to that, and he says to understand the verbiage of the Alter Rebbe, one should see the three different discourses, sets of discourses from his father-in-law and his father-in-law's father, the Rashab. And he doesn't go into details. All he says is that if you study those sets of discourses, you'll have a better understanding of the verbiage, that it's not just repetitious, but really talking about different levels of the neshama, of the soul. But I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to just give an over a general overview. And as we say in Hebrew, oid chizoyin lamoed, there will be another chance. As we grow and we get older and smarter, and Hashem gives us the ability to relearn Tanya, hopefully then we'll learn more. But for our purposes, what we're learning now is adequate, and that is that in in chapter 35, the Alter Rebbe brought a teaching from the Yenuka, the son of Reb Amnuna Sova, Parshas Bolak, which says that it's the oil that keeps the flame going when you light a flame. And what's the moral from that analogy? Says the Zohar HaKodesh, says the Yenuka, that the oil is uvdan tovan, good deeds, maise, action, mitzvahs, not Torah study. Torah study is very holy and very special, and has its nekudah, it has its point that it brings to a Jew. But when it comes to being plugged in, it's the action. So one putting on a tefillin is greater than 40 years of sitting and learning Talmud or Hasidus. Right? If you say, what should I do? I have a choice. I can sit and study for 40 years and not put on tefillin once, or put on tefillin once and not study. If there was such a question and such a scenario, the answer is to put on tefillin one time. Why? Aren't we a nation? The Torah says in Deuteronomy and Devarim, you're a nation of wisdom and understanding, knowledge. And that's the answer, my friends, that one deed plugs into the essence of God. Everything else is to a fascination of God, a chamber of God, a revelation of God, but it's not God himself. Hashem himself wants maisa, action. Action speaks louder than words, put in that simple English phrase, adage, that English adage. So, the Tanya...
I have a question.
Yes.
Question. So this thing that we're talking about now specifically was a whole debate at my Shabbos table. We had like 15 guests this Shabbos. A lot of my cousins are here in yeshiva. And the debate was, the boys that are in yeshiva here, they have no idea what's going on with the war. They have no idea that there's hundreds, if not thousands, of soldiers that have...
Okay.
Are you there?
I'm there. The question is whether you're there.
Okay, no, training. So basically the question is that if Limud Torah is the most important, what they're saying is Limud Torah is the most important thing, and they're putter from doing any kind of chesed or any kind of action. So how would that relate to what we're learning now?
Well, it would relate is that maybe they're wrong. Maybe they're wrong. Is it possible that they're wrong? At the same time, maybe both are right. It's not the place, Yoni, of a yeshiva bacher. It's not, if you're in yeshiva and you're studying, your place is to study. And through your Torah, you help the war efforts. When you have a chance, you go out and you help. So, for example, in the Chabad model, when I was in yeshiva in Morristown, in Moshe Drucker's old stomping grounds, and whose father contributed, he told me, to the yeshiva, to our yeshiva in Morristown, we learned all week. And I'm talking about very serious learning, to 1, 2 in the morning. Learning, okay? Learning 14 hours a day. With a break, lunch, supper, davening, prayer. But, right, Friday, we learned several hours till midday, and then we took the Eri Lackawanna, which is the train out there, and we went to South Orange and to West Orange and to Brunswick and Maplewood and Newark, and we went to the buildings and we went to put on tefillin with Jews and we went to talk to them. I mean, I have very warm memories going into doctor's office, and it was just great. And we spoke to them. We gave out a thought for the week. In other words, our chesed and our outreach was designated to Friday afternoon. But during the week, if you did that, you were breaching the order of the yeshiva studies. So that's my answer in brief to you, Yaini, is that yes, their job is to sit and learn, but they're not soldiers. They're students in a yeshiva. At the same time, they, through their administration, should somehow do things, and I think a lot of yeshivas probably do, to help the soldiers, whether it's making the tzitzis. I've seen all kinds of chesed, but let's not confuse that a student should become a soldier or a soldier to become a student. We need both. But what we're talking about here, Yaini, is something very different. Here we're talking about not someone who's a student or not someone who's a soldier. We're talking about the idea, the concept. The concept is that action speaks louder than words. That doesn't mean to say you need to be a student. In order to be able to do action properly, look, I'm able to teach you. How? Because I spent years studying. If I wouldn't spend years studying, I couldn't teach you. But the purpose of all those years studying is to teach now. And the same with Isser. He went to medical school. He's able to help people now. Imagine he goofed off in medical school and he cut classes and he faked things and, and he got himself a degree somehow. God forbid he can be hurting people's lives because he doesn't really know the information. Or he didn't really, do the hours of study and everything else. In other words, action is where it's at. So the Alter Rebbe, let's get back to the text and go back now. Alter Rebbe says, when we're talking about action, we have to understand that the neshama that a yid has pervades a person's body. And on one hand, we say, where does God rest? Where is Hashem? So we say, in the Kodesh Kadoshim, the Holy of Holies in Jerusalem, we had a temple, a Beit HaMikdash, and within the temple there was a room called the Holy of Holies, and which once a year, on Yom Kippur, the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, went into, did a service on behalf of the entire all the Jews, to forgive us for our iniquities, our transgressions and sins, right? So the Shekhinah's there. So asks the Alter Rebbe, wait a minute, isn't God all over? Molech chol ha'aretz kavodo? God is, he's in Fort Lauderdale, Mark. He's on the beach over there. Yeah, and it's hard to imagine God being on the beach when it's 90 degrees, but he's there too. So if God is all over, if Hashem is all over, what is the specialty of saying God is in the Beit HaMikdash, in the Holy of Holies? That was his question here. And he starts answering that there's different aspects of God's manifestation and God's essence. As far as the essence is concerned, he's all over. That's true. The essence of Hashem is all over. Not an iota less than of his essence is on the beach of Fort Lauderdale than it is in Camden, New Jersey, where used to be a war zone. I don't know how it's today. Okay? Or Afghanistan, where they're going to lynching people in public at a theater. This happened yesterday. They're doing public killings, right? Is Hashem there or not? The answer is he's definitely there. The fact that they make such a choice and do such an ugly thing is terrible. But Hashem is there. Malei chol haaretz kivaydai. His divine glory and presence and honor is all over. So if that's the case, what's so unique about the Eish Kodesh Shul, where we say Hashem is in the Shul, come to Shul, open the Ark, say L'chaim, sing together. What do I need to go to Shul for? You know, everyone knows the joke. Where's the kotel? In my house. I got a wall. Why do I have to go to Yerushalayim to the wall? I got a wall over here behind me. I'll pray to the wall. And guess what? If you can't get to Shul, you should pray to Hashem by the wall. But is there something special about the wall? Absolutely. Absolutely. What is that? Then this question and discussion is part of the overall Tanya chapter 51, in which the Alter Rebbe says both are true. There is something called the individualized, compartmentalized aspect of the soul, where the soul's abode, where its comfort zone, its home, is the brain. From there, it manifests itself throughout the body, i.e., the brain is the nerve center. But when you're talking about that level of soul, you're not talking about the essence. You're talking about a manifestation of the soul. In Hebrew, there is the etzem haneshama, essence of the soul, and there is the hispashtut, the extension, the expansiveness of the soul. The extension and expansiveness of the soul is not the essence, and hence it lends itself to being felt in the feet, in the nose, in the hands, in the body, in all parts of the body. So too, that's the analogy. So too in the moral, Hashem's essence is all everywhere, but the manifestation and revelation is more in the Beit HaMikdash or in the shul than it is in my house. Unless I holify and sanctify and spiritualize my house, that it becomes more holy. But even then, you all know the Jewish law. If you have a preference, davening at home or davening in a shul, you should daven in a shul, even when you're not davening with a minyan, by the way. Let's say you're not feeling well one day, you get up late, and then you feel a little better. If you're able, you should go down to a shul to daven in a shul. If you're not able, of course not. Why? Because there's something holy about that physical place, more holy. Let's continue now on page 142, and we are about 10 lines from the top after the period. V'hinei al hamshachas kol hatayag mine koichis, regarding the drawing down of godliness into all the 613 faculties, v'chayis, and energy, mehelem hanushama, coming from the concealed aspect of the soul, el haguf, to the body, to our body, lachayoisoi, to enliven it, oleo amru, for this matter it says, she'ikir mishkina of hashra'osa, the primary dwelling, shel hamshacha zu v'gilizeh, this influence and this revelation, hu kulei b'moichoi shebarosh, is all in the brain and the head. V'lochein, therefore, hey mekablim tchila, the brain receives first, hakoyach v'chayas, the power and the energy, haroy lehem, that's suitable for it, lefi mizga v'tchinosam, based on its composition, which is shehein chabad, It refers to the details of the mind, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, the components of the mind, creativity, analysis, and focus, the koyach hamachshava, and also the power within the thought, the chol hashayach lamoichin, and everything that is applicable to intelligence. Not only that, everything that in a general way is given to the other parts of the body, to the other limbs, not just to the brain. Those are also originally incorporated in the brain. Visham hu ikra v'sharsha, and over there, the life force that animates, for example, the hands, Isser, the life force, the hand shakes. That life force that's in the hands that makes the hand move was originally in the brain, and that's really the kernel and essence of that life force. Its originality does not begin in the hand. It begins in the brain. V'sham hu ikra v'sharsha. Over there he says, is the primary aspect, the ikar and the shorish and the source of this life force, of all souls. It all begins in the brain. And from there it extends itself as an emanation to all the other limbs, and everyone receives the proper energy that's befitting for it, based on its composition. For example, the power of seeing, Mizgala, you see the word chevre, Mizgala, reveals itself, be ayin in the eye. So in other words, it's coming from somewhere else. It's coming, eyesight. Where's eyesight coming from? Says the Alter Rebbe, eyesight is coming from the nerve center, where there the power of eyesight is incorporated in the nerve center in the brain, and from there it expresses itself into the eye. I'm sure I'm not the physician and not the neuroscientist, but this idea probably has today a lot of meaning in those studies, in those fields.
It correlates, absolutely.
Right. You know it. I don't know it, but I feel it. I hear it. I can hear it, as the Alter Rebbe is saying, that it all starts in the brain, and therefore, if we work with the brain, and we are able to make certain changes in the brain, there'll be better results in various ways. The fact that someone, God forbid, is blind or other, that's when there's a blockage that's been put on from Hashem for whatever reason that a person shouldn't see. But nevertheless, the energy of seeing, the energy, not the practicality and implementation of seeing, exists on some level.
The fact that when somebody has a stroke,
Yeah.
they can lose their vision, it's not because there's a problem in the eye. The eye is just a receptor. It's a loss of the function in the brain.
Right.
Same to it here.
Right. Okay.
So those organs are just receptors.
Receptors. Okay. So the whole science, the whole field of neuroscience, isn't that something that's associated with this nakuda? Am I right in that or wrong? Yeah.
I would say you're right.
Yeah. So it's very important to keep the brain sharp. we get older. I know someone who is 95 or 96. He plays chess with himself. And he can do many things. God has blessed him financially. He doesn't want to lose the power of the brain. But, he's homebound pretty much. He's not really interested in meeting people. So what does he do? He plays chess with himself. You have to keep the brain active. The Gemara says, Chevra, what the Gemara says? Talmidim Chachamim, Jewish Torah scholars, the older they get, the sharper they are, versus non-Torah scholars. Why? Because they've been using their brain learning Torah all their life. 70, 80, 90, as long as God gives them that ability. My wife would...
In Japan, Rebbe, what you're saying is so true. The Japanese, tens of thousands of Japanese, they learn Gemara in order to sharpen their brain.
Gemara?
Yeah, in-depth Gemara in Japan. Total goyim, they learn Gemara because they found it's the best tool to sharpen their brain and to stay smart,
right,
to stay on top of their game.
It's funny you mentioned that. I've been learning a lot of Gemara recently, and it's bringing me back to my youth and teen years, because it does sharpen. You have to understand why this rabbi doesn't accept the argument of this rabbi position, and this one back and forth in great detail, and that process is so healthy for the human brain. Let's continue. Okay. And he says now, so he says that the eye, it receives its chayas, its vitality from the brain nerve center, the koyach hashmiya ba'ozen, and the power of hearing in the air comes from the nerve centers too. V'chol ha'koyches mispashtim mehamoyach. All these faculties extend themselves from the brain, as is known, kisham hu ikar mishkan haneshama. Again, because the primary abode of where the soul rests and has its abode is in the brain. Kula b'bchinas gilui sheniglu sham klolus achayis hamishpashet b'meno. Because the overall highest energy and vitality and animation rests over there, and from there it extends itself. He's repeating it, seemingly repeating it. As I said, there's no repetition. Tanya, everything has another nuance, but for our purpose, it's kind of a repetition. At least it sounds that way. Its powers, its faculties, it calls it here, Moshe, Klolus Achayis. I'm going to explain that in a moment. Me'irim u'mispashtim misham, illuminate and extend from there, l'chol eivari aguf, to all limbs. Kedimyon, and now he says, I'll give you, you can compare that, kedimyon, ha'oira mispashit, to light that extends itself, umeir and shines, me'ah shemesh, from the sun, l'chadrei chadorim, to room of rooms. Everyone here is in a certain room now. The room in the light in one room now, I understand we only said it's raining, it's overcast, is one kind. Now, go to another room, and if you have a window there, you'll see the light there is in a different way. But it comes all from the shemesh. That's right. It all comes from the shemesh, from the sun. But the receptacle, the receiver, makes the difference in how it manifests itself. So if you have one style window and one opening, one size, it's one kind. You have another kind of window, another size, it's another kind, etc. Vafilu. Now this last line, the brackets, is a very powerful one. Vafilu halev mekabel mamoch. The heart. Alter Rebbe says, even the heart receives from the brain. Right? There's, God forbid, brain dead and heart dead. If someone's brain is dead, Is he still alive? In halachic terms, he is. I have a neighbor here, a massive Talmud Chacham. He's already 10 years on life support, lays in a bed. Such a Talmud Chacham. That's what happened. He's alive. But he's a life support. What? Life support.
He's not living.
It's not living, Moshe. It's not living, and it is living. It's not living in the sense that he's not communicating. He's being supported by machines. The Alter Rebbe says here a very important point, that even the heart, on one level, receives from the brain. So, what he means here, look what he says, therefore, hamoyach shalit, the mind dominates olav, mind over matter, b'toldusoi, by its very nature, canal, as we learned in chapter 12 and 17. Meaning to say, this is the question that we should be asking ourselves. How can we position that the mind can control the heart? The heart is the heart, and the heart has its own source, and its heart emotions. So if emotionally I want something, what do you mean my brain can control me? So that's why in this bracket out, the Rebbe says, you know why? Because the heart itself is an organ, and it also is impacted by the nerve center, i.e. the brain. So therefore, if you change the way you think about something, what we call the paradigm shift and everything else, right? The cognitions, you change your cognition, the way you think about it, it will make an impact on your heart too. So this Alter Rebbe says in a bracket here, which is it's very important for what we learned earlier. What I wanted to just clarify for a few minutes is that we're talking here about two types of what we call chayas. And these are the terms in Chassidus, it's good for you to know. Chayas klali and chayas prati. Chayas klali means the general aspect of life force, animation, chayut, energy. Chayas prati is the specific one. So for example, the fact that my hand and my feet and my heart and my brain are all specific to its place and it's animated by energy, that's chayas prati. That's not chayas klali. Chayas klali means you're swimming, you're in the ocean, and all of a sudden you're going down. And you have one thing in mind. Life! I want to live. Not how I want to live, where I want to live, with who I want to live. God, save me from drowning. Chayas klali. That's a very powerful aspect of life, and that is similar to every organ. There's no more of the general chayas klali in the brain than the feet. They both share the one common goal, life, living. Where is there a difference? In the chayas prati, that the brain says this is good life. The feet say soaking my feet in the hot water, that's great life. The hands say playing the piano, that's special life. The nose says smelling good fragrances, that's real life. So everyone has their version of what good life is. That's chayas prati. So the Alter Rebbe here in this chapter says that we have both aspects and not to confuse them and just understand the mechanism of how it works. And once you do that, well, you can understand the point that Hashem is all over, and at the very same time, there is a significance, a specialty to him resting in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, in the Holy of Holies, in a shul, and all of that. Both are true. That's the point that we've learned until now. Chevra, we'll see everyone tomorrow. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Shalom. Bye-bye.